Welcome to Taiwan Report News Brief, news and analysis from Taiwan. I'm Donovan Smith. Up today on the show, lawmakers propose tough new laws on disease carriers, milking the membership at the KMT, KMT heavyweights let the pigeons fly on a Johnny Chiang invite, PRC military exercises got you down, Wu Zihuai says, hey, don't worry about it. And according to the UN, Taiwan is happy, apparently happy to be left out. All right, but kicking off, in the Taiwan news, Japan considering Taiwan's CPTPP inclusion. Try saying that again quickly. All right, now the CPTPP is the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, the trade agreement includes 11 signatories: Japan, Australia, Brunei, Canada, Chile, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. Nikkei Asian Review reported that Japan, which basically leads the bloc, plans to expand the bloc and reduce its reliance on China, a move prompted by the supply chain disruption in China due to the coronavirus outbreak. Thailand, a major production base for Japanese automobile companies, is expected to join the bloc in April. Taiwan, Indonesia, and the Philippines are also reportedly being eyed by Japan as potential partners. Taiwan has long sought to become a member of the bloc, but has been blocked by Japan due to a dispute over import restrictions it imposes on products from Japanese prefectures affected by the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant incident in 2011. Japanese voted in a 2018 referendum against importing goods from prefectures that had radioactive contamination. Now, that referendum was led primarily by KMT supporters. There is an element within the KMT that actually likes to create irritants in Taiwan's relations with Japan and the United States. So this was... Now, the Japanese have been saying that their goods from those prefectures have been safe from radiation for a long time. The scientific community seems to agree, but of course they couched the referendum language in such a way that it sounded like this was an important food safety issue. So this has become a serious irritant in the relationship with Japan and deepening relations. Moving on to Focus Taiwan. Taiwan adds 16 new COVID-19 cases, bringing total to 169. Of the 16 new cases, 13 of which originated overseas. Continuing on in Focus Taiwan, thousands arriving from U.S., East Asia asked to test for COVID-19. Thousands of people who entered Taiwan from the United States and East Asia in March and have shown respiratory symptoms must quarantine themselves amid the growing spread of the new coronavirus disease, according to Taiwan's government. In the Taipei Times, legislators want harsher disease laws. The Democratic Progressive Party and the Chinese Nationalist Party, or KMT, have proposed amendments to toughen penalties for those who breach the Communicable Disease Control Act. The DPP version, sponsored by DPP legislator Wang Dingyu, aims to amend Articles 62 and 69 of the Act. The proposed amendments state that people who are aware they are infected with a Category 1 communicable disease, smallpox or SARS-like disease, a Category 5 disease, which there are several, which includes Ebola and SARS, or a Category 2 multi-drug resistant disease, such as tuberculosis, and infect others because they did not comply with instructions from competent authorities, could face up to 3 years in prison, as well as a fine of 300,000 NT to 3 million. The KMT version goes further. They have more fines. But they go on to suggest that non-compliance should cause someone's death. The patient and suspected patient should be sentenced to 7 years to life in prison. Probably the DPP version will pass, if either of them is going to. Continuing the Taipei Times, the KMT to vote on fundraising quotas at Congress. Source. Now, the KMT is hemorrhaging cash. There's a piece in Katagalan Media that broke this out, but it's losing something along the lines of 1.5 billion NT or something a month. I mean, in pensions. It's a staggering sum of money. I forget the number off the top of my head. but there's no way that that is in any way sustainable. So the KMT is to vote on fundraising quotas at Congress. Source: the KMT would be putting the decision on whether to enforce annual fundraising quotas for party members in civil servant positions to a vote at its National Congress to resolve the party's lack of finances. A source said if the motion passed in the National Congress, the party would be able to enforce the 2016 party resolution as far back as January this year. The party's main sources of finance have been mostly frozen by the Ill-Gotten Party Assets Settlement Committee. The party in 2016 passed a resolution mandating that the chairperson would have to raise 10 million NT dollars, while vice chairpersons would have to raise 10 million NT in total. Now, there are currently no appointed vice chair people, by the way. Johnny Chiang hasn't appointed any. Mayors of special municipalities would need to meet a quota of 2 million NT each. Central Standing Committee members, special municipality council speakers, city mayors, and county commissioners would have a quota of 1 million NT, and legislators, municipality council deputy speakers, and speakers for city and county councils, as well as local party chapter directors, would have a quota of 500,000 NT. The resolution says legislators at large have to turn in 100,000 per year and raise 300,000 in funding. Should the motion pass, members who have not met their annual quota would have all benefits and powers as party members suspended by the party, effectively. All quotas in fiscal 2019 that are yet unpaid would be wiped clean. Now, in the past, from 2016, basically there was no enforcement mechanism, so they didn't raise that much money. Now, it says here, the party had achieved 70% of its fundraising quota for fiscal 2019 for party members working in the central government, while fundraising from those in local government had remained abysmal. Now, this is a serious problem for the KMT. Their finances are just one of only a few. I've gone into it before, so I won't go into it much again. But if their relations with the PRC start to break down, they may also lose funding from the Taishang or the Taiwanese businessmen based in China, who often receive subsidies and grants and business from United Front-linked organizations acting on behalf of the communist government in China. So, whether or not the 92 consensus is dropped or not, that may have an impact on the party's finances as well. Now, there was also, as I mentioned, I saw an article a few weeks ago, which I shared with you, is that already some party heads in local ones, one in Yilan, for example, has stepped down from, just simply resigned because he said too much money is coming out of my own pocket. So this is an article, moving on now to Now News. This is a local language media. So Johnny Chiang, he has invited the 15 special municipality heads or county commissioners that are KMT out of the 22 nationally. However, 14 so he called them together along with party cadres, think tank people, and professionals to have this big meeting. But of those 15 major local heads, 14 of them have already sent word they're not showing up, which is a little bit embarrassing for the incoming chair. He has, however, been traveling around meeting them individually, so perhaps that's part of the reason why. Moving on into the Taipei Times, Chinese exercises not provocative, KMT lawmaker. There is a, quote, huge difference between Chinese warplanes flying around Taiwan and intruding into its airspace, and the former should not be deemed provocative, KMT lawmaker Wu Zihuai said, calling on the Ministry of National Defense not to mislead the public. Just as U.S. aircraft flying by the nation should not be deemed provocative, neither should Chinese aircraft, Wu wrote in a question and answer session with the Executive Yuan on Wednesday last week. Any assumption that such moves are provocative acts lacks a legal basis, and the ministry should avoid crying wolf and causing panic, said Wu, a retired lieutenant general. Well, he's correct in saying that where these Chinese exercises are happening, and they're flying around Taiwan, and when they cross into Taiwan's airspace, or more accurately, crossing the traditional center line in the Taiwan Strait. Yes, when they cross over the center line, which has been kind of a tacit agreement for a long time, they are intentionally being even more provocative. But for him to say that Chinese or PRC warplanes doing these flybys and sending their aircraft carriers and other military exercises that don't go into Taiwan's airspace are similar to U.S. aircraft doing the same thing, it is totally apples and oranges. The United States, for example, has not renounced the use of force against Taiwan. There's no threat from the United States. China, however, has been repeatedly threatening that there may be a war in the future, and has territorial and says that Taiwan is part of its territory and will be, as they put it, reunified by force if necessary. So there is definitely a big difference between those two things. Now, just for a little bit of background, if you're new joining the show, legislator Wu Zihuai, he's the guy who the KMT put on their party list, and these are, when you go into elections, you can vote. Some of the seats in the legislature are appointed to parties that get a certain percentage of the vote. He was put number 4 on the list, which means he was almost certainly to be a shoo-in. But this caused a lot of controversy because he, for example, has gone to China, attended a ceremony there where Xi Jinping gave a speech, and he stood for the People's Republic national anthem. So there's a lot of concerns about his loyalty to the nation. Moving on in the Taipei Times, at least the current administration is doing something about defense. Automated defense system to be deployed on Dongyin is the headline. The first of 6 sets of short-range automated defense weapons systems purchased by the Army is to be deployed on Dongyin, an islet in the Matsu archipelago, to strengthen defenses in the area, the Ministry of National Defense said. And finally, Focus Taiwan has the headline, Taiwan ranked happiest country in Southeast Asia. Well, that's awfully specific. Taiwan has been ranked as the happiest country in East and Southeast Asia, apparently not West Asia, in a global happiness report released by a United Nations affiliated organization on Friday. The report, produced by the UN's Sustainable Development Solutions Network, ranked Taiwan 25th in the world among 153 countries and regions for happiness based on such criteria as GDP per capita, social support, life expectancy, freedom, generosity, and perceptions of corruption. Regionally, Taiwan topped its neighbors Singapore, which ranked 31st, and the other ones came way farther down the list, including China at 94th, and Myanmar at 133rd. At the top of the list was Finland, which has also a very high suicide rate, but I guess they didn't include that. Now, what's of course interesting about this is that the UN doesn't recognize Taiwan, but this is listed as the 25th happiest country in the world. But of course, the UN will not even allow people with Taiwanese passports to visit the UN. So, anyway. All right. Keep checking in on report.tw. I believe tomorrow or the day after, the new site layout should be up. I hope to see you there, and hope to see you back here tomorrow.
This has been brought to you by the Taiwan Report. For more content like this, become our patron at report.tw.
哎呦，就是那个台湾狗啦，最喜欢我的台湾狗了。